CUNY assessment test usually includes a question about reading a graph. Now, there are three types of graphs that you might see: a bar graph, circle graph, or a line graph. I'm going to show you examples of each of these. If you need time to copy the graph into your notes, you can stop the machine, okay, because I have already drawn them on the board. Let's go over here. The first graph that we're going to come to is a bar graph. Okay, this bar graph is going to represent the number of scholarships awarded by a certain college. Along the bottom here, I have put the years, okay, 1980, 1981, 82, 83, and 84. Okay, the height of the bar in each case represents the number that is specified in the graph, in this case, the number of scholarships awarded. So in 1980, the bar here goes up to 30. 30 scholarships were awarded in 1980. The line stops here at 30. In 1981, the line goes up to 40. 40 scholarships awarded in 1981. In 1982, the line stops between 30 and 40. Okay, very often you're asked to read off how many scholarships are awarded, but remember, it's a multiple choice question. So they may say, in 1982, how many scholarships were awarded? And they say 10, 20, 30, 40, 35, 50, so that you see that it's certainly closest to 35. They wouldn't give you 35 and 36. Okay, it's not that accurate. But if you had a choice between 30, 40, and 35, this certainly seems to be 35. So we'll take that as the height of the 1982 bar. In 1983, 50 scholarships were awarded, and in 1984, 40 scholarships were awarded. Okay, the above graph, let's write down what it's doing. The above graph shows the number of incoming students who were given full 4-year scholarships at a Midwestern college for each year from 1980 to 1984. Okay, so on the assessment test, you'll be given a picture like this. Okay, you'll see the bars, they'll say scholarships awarded, something like that, and then maybe a little note saying that the graph, in this case, shows the number of incoming students who were given full 4-year scholarships at a Midwestern college for each year from 1980 to 1984. Now, of course, I've already told you how to read the number of students for each year, but the kinds of questions you would see, something like this. How many incoming students were given scholarships in 1980? And remember, these are multiple choice questions. You have to check the one that corresponds to the bar graph, and they might ask you, say, 1982. So let's fill in the answers. In 1980, we go over to the graph, we see how high the bar is, and it goes up this high, and that corresponds to a number of 30. So 30 students were awarded scholarships in 1980. And in 1982, we go over to 1982, follow the bar up, then go across and see that it's between 30 and 40, and chances are there would be 35 as one of the choices under the multiple choice. And then they might ask, what is the total number of students who were given four-year scholarships from 1980 to 1984. What is the total number of students who were given four-year scholarships from 1980 to 1984? You would have to write down the number of scholarships awarded each year and then add them up to get the total. Okay, in 1980, the bar goes up to 30, so 30 scholarships were awarded in 1980. In 1981, the bar goes up to 40. In 1982, it goes up to 35. In 1983, the bar goes up to 50. And in 1984, it goes up to 40. So we have found the number of scholarships awarded each year and the total number awarded during the 5 years indicated on the graph. Or they might ask you, say, between 1982 and 1984, in which case you would only add 1982, 1983, and 1984. Okay, here they ask for all of the 5 years, so we add this up, and we get 5, 4 and 5, 9, and 3, 12, and 4, 16, and 3, 19, 195 scholarships were awarded during the 5 years indicated on the graph. Okay, as I said, this is a bar graph, and the height of the bar in each case indicates the number, in this case, of scholarships awarded. Okay, the next kind of graph that we're going to look at is a circle graph. Okay, in a circle graph, the items are represented as a percentage of a total dollar amount. The graph that I have drawn over here, okay, the above graph, and I'm going to give you a moment to copy it. The above graph represents a boy's allotment of his monthly salary from a part-time job. The above graph represents a boy's allotment of his monthly salary from a part-time job. Okay, you copy this graph now while I erase the board. Okay, we see here his monthly salary is $150. What we've done is we've taken a circle, sort of looks like a pie, and we've broken it up into portions to indicate how much of his salary he spends on various items. His main items that he spends money from his part-time job on are entertainment. 35% of his money is allotted for entertainment. He goes to movies, goes out. Food, okay, 25%. Clothing, 30%, 10% other. Could be money he saves or whatever. Okay, now the entire circle, of course, is 100%. You have 35 plus 25, that's 60, plus 30, 90, plus 10, 100. So all these percentages should add up to 100%. 25%, of course, is equivalent to 1/4. So that was 1/4 of the circle. 30% is bigger than 25%. You have 10%, which should be 1/3 of this region in here, and then a 35%. Okay, let's look at the kinds of questions you might get. how much money does he allot to food per month? Okay. We look over here and we see 25% of his salary goes to food. His monthly salary is $150. So we want to, this is really asking, what is 25% of $150? And we studied problems like this on an earlier videotape. What is 25% of $150? That is, we would calculate 25%, which it can be written as 0.25 times $150. 25% of $150. 150 times 0.25. 5 times 0. 5 times 5 is 25. Put down the 5, carry the 2. 1 times 5, 5 and 2 is 7. Then indent 1, 2 times 0, 2 times 5, 10. Carry the 1, 2 plus 1, 3. 0, 5, 7, 3. No decimal digits plus 2 decimal digits gives us 2 decimal digits. So the answer is $37.50 is allotted for food in his budget here. Next question. How much money does he spend on entertainment each month? Okay, entertainment is the largest chunk of his budget. 35% of his salary goes to entertainment. So we're interested in 35% of $150. So basically this question is really asking, what is 35% of $150? So for entertainment, we would want to compute 35%, 0.35 times $150. Okay, $150 times 0.35, 5 times 150, 750 just like before, and now 3 times 150, 3 times 0, 3 times 5, 15, put down the 5, carry the 1, 3 and 1, 4. Adding up, 0, 5, 12, and then 4 and 1, 5. No decimal digits, 2 decimal digits, so an answer with 2 decimal digits for $52.50 devoted to entertainment. And for the last question on this graph, we move on to the next one. How about this? How much money does he allot to clothing? Okay, how much money does he allot to clothing? Clothing is 30% of his budget. So we're really asking, what is 30% of $150? So for clothing, we're going to compute 30% of $150, or 0.30 times $150. $150 times 0.30, first 0 times 150, and then indent 1, and now 3 times 150 to get 450. Add up, put 2 decimal digits in the answer, so $45 allotted to clothing. Okay, you can look that over while I erase the board. The last kind of graph that you might see on the assessment test is a line graph. And we've already studied bar graphs and circle graphs. Now a line graph. Okay, let me try to draw one for you. This could be 1980. $1981, $1982, $1983, $1984. All right, and on this line I'm going to mark off following numbers. $10, $20, $30, $40, $50, $60, $70. And this is going to be a graph representing annual profit of a certain store. And the numbers on the vertical axis here are going to be in terms of thousands of dollars. Always look, in other words, the bar graph that we had with the scholarships awarded, there was nothing else, so we assume that these were actually the number of scholarships awarded, 50, 40, 30. Here, we see these numbers from 10 to 70, however, it's written thousands of dollars. So this, if we were to see something for 10, it's really $10,000 profit here, $70,000 profit. Okay, now, going to mark down the following. In 1980, the store's profit was $30,000, and I'll indicate that by a dot here. 1980, the profit was $30,000. In 1981, the profit was $25,000 in between, like so. In 1982, it was $50,000. In 1983, I'm going to put the dot here, corresponding to $70,000, and in 1984, once again, $50,000. Now, of course, you will be presented with it. You won't be told what how high these are. You'll have to read across. you'll be presented this, and it's a line graph. These dots will now be connected by straight line segments. And this is what you will see on the test. And there may be some note saying the above graph indicates the yearly profit for a small toy store for the years from 1980 to 1984. The above graph indicates the yearly profit for a small toy store for the years from 1980 to 1984. And you will be asked various questions about this graph. Okay, the first question might be this. What was the profit in 1981? You would then go over to the graph, find 1981 over here, go up until you find the dot, or where the line is at 1981, and look across to this axis to see how high it is. Now, it appears to be between the 20 and the 30. Okay, so we're going to assume that'll be about 25, and you would write $25,000. Now, of course, this is a multiple choice question, so you may see various things. You probably would see 20,000, 30,000. They may be nasty and write 25. But of course, the profit is in terms of thousands of dollars, so it's $25,000. Okay, you won't see 25,000 and 26,000, okay, because you can't read it that clearly. Okay, but you'll know if you see 20,000, 25,000, and 30,000 that for 1981 it was closest to 25,000. Okay, you may see something like this as another question. In 1983, the owner was able to get a large shipment of Cabbage Patch dolls when no one else had them. This resulted in a very successful year. What was his profit in 1983? And another question, how much did his profit increase from 1982 to 1983? Okay, first we're asked what the profit was in 1983. We do see that the profit does peak in 1983 on the graph. And then how much did it increase from 1982 to 1983? Well, first of all, in 1983, the profit was, take 1983, go up until you see the graph, read across, comes closest to the 70, so $70,000. Okay, and then from 1982 to 1983, well, in 1982, the profit was in 1982, go up until you see the graph and follow it across here to see $50,000. So if in 1983 the profit was $70,000 and in 1982 the profit was $50,000, then subtracting the increase in profit between 1982 and 1983 would be $70,000 minus $50,000, or $20,000. Okay, so his profit in 1983 was $70,000, and the increase in profit from 82 to 83, it went up $20,000. And that brings us to the end of this tape.